Hey, good morning. This is Saturday morning with my garage, and we got a special guest here. I can't tell you his name, but we're just going to call him Jim, and I'm Jim. So it's Jim and Jim. Now, he might be a little fiery. I don't even know what to say. I've known him for a handful of years and stuff like that. But the cool thing of it is this guy builds some really bitchin' old school choppers. I think he's been around the block a couple of times building. He can just fucking stare at me. It's so crazy. But he actually has a shop in Ventura.
It's called Whores and Shit.
Yeah, okay, apparently it's called Whores and Shit. And he actually has a fabricator guy in there that he makes everything. He's actually he buys his parts from us, and we see a lot of cool bikes that he builds. So what's some of the old bike that you just did recently? That Panhead or Knucklehead? What was that thing?
A 53 Pan.
A 1953 Pan. Apparently his mini works because he's so quiet now that he's on camera. It's not an investigation or anything, because normally he's always telling me fuck you and all kinds of other stuff. But he actually, his day job.
Senator, I get mistaken for me all the time.
The what?
Senator, I get mistaken for me
Senator?
all the time.
Okay, because I'm a senator. But he actually has an extremely large pharmaceutical business selling rubber gloves. He likes selling rubber gloves and IV stands. We have those all over the place. They work great for holding our battery chargers and stuff like that. But so what do you ride on a normal basis?
Well, I have a lot of choices.
I know, you have several motorcycles, you have dozens.
So we've got a frame table for building frames. A lot of times the older bikes have issues. A lot of backyard welding that's got to be cleaned up and whatnot. So and then we'll modify them by increasing rakes or extending the hardtails and things like that. So we do a lot of welding, fabricating. We've got Bridgeport to make parts, the usual fabrication stuff, bunch of lifts. 53 Pan was a major project.
Is that the one that you just did with the ginormous Springer on the front of it?
Yeah, it's a Denver front end on it, which is goes back. The guy bought it from died, or I bought it from his widow. I'm sure he thought he was the last one to fuck his wife. I fucked her out of that bike.
So you got a good deal.
Yeah, but the frame had tons of issues. Ended up cutting up about half of it. Cleaned it up. It has a Denver front end on it, and that had all sorts of handling problems. Called Mondo over at Denver Choppers. He wasn't any help, and that's what we've done.
Well, I'm glad to see you're just like me. You don't sugarcoat anything. You're just cut to the chase.
Yeah. So the rods needed bushings and all sorts of stuff.
So you redid the whole thing. You've had it down here. We've posted pictures of it. If you go back to our Instagram pictures, you'll see pictures of it. It's really badass. It's very old school.
Actually, my motors, I have Andrew Rosa Cycles in Huntington, New York, rebuilt all the motors.
You know what? That's right. I met that guy at the last Chopper Fest. Really nice guy.
Yeah.
He's an old school, knows his shit. I mean, that guy builds some awesome stuff. And
so if you got old iron, he's the guy.
Yeah.
Pan, shovels, knuckleheads, that sort of thing. Dynos. It's got a dyno. I mean, it's,
But isn't it? It's not a chassis dyno. It's an actual engine dyno, isn't it?
No, he's got a chassis dyno.
He has a chassis dyno.
Yeah, it's in-ground chassis dyno,
cool.
so you can just roll the bike on.
Well, that's cool.
And,
so what, anything, did you just get back from Sturgis?
No, I didn't.
I thought you were going.
I only got as far as Durango. I went to 2 useless Harley-Davidson dealerships. The first one was in Kingman. I suggest you avoid Kingman Harley-Davidson.
Oh, okay.
Like
so
the plague.
We got some shit flying out there.
So I don't know what they charge, $110 an hour, but when you broke it down on the road, you need parts, and they're parts exchangers. They don't fix anything, but they're parts exchangers.
What was the problem you had?
I had the battery light on my touring bike came on, and check engine light, the battery light, and I wasn't getting a charge. So I said, well, it's a regulator. Well, swap out the stator. Oh, the stator's fine. Well, I got.
That was probably the problem, huh?
Yeah. So I didn't even get to Grand Canyon Harley Davidson, and I got to the off ramp and then pushed it down the frontage road to the actual dealership.
I'd pay to see that.
Fucking
I was surprised
assholes.
you didn't at least call a tow truck for 50 feet.
And so then I needed a stator, big surprise. They didn't have a stator, of course.
How do they not have a stator?
It's a Harley dealership. They don't carry parts.
No, I understand
Right,
that. That's why we stock all the parts.
They
for
don't
the people,
fix anything.
The
They
do-it-yourselfers out here.
They just replace parts, all right? So $110 an hour and they just replace parts. They don't figure anything out.
Well, that's why I always say replace the whole system. It might cost a little bit more because one part will affect the other part, and ultimately, you know what you're getting into, and it's fixed. You would have been in Sturgis. So I guess you didn't bring me my shirt.
So then I got to, so they had it all squared away. Spent the night in Flagstaff. Next morning, the thing's doing the same thing. So,
After you put a stator in it?
So I ended up between these two goddamn dealerships with 2 regulators, 2 batteries, and 1 stator, and it still didn't work.
So what's the problem?
The output side of the regulator, the wiring harness plug is slightly mangled, so the hook on the bottom of the regulator,
It wasn't having a good connection.
won't keep it in place.
Right.
So, you know, I put
You'd
some,
think after putting one of those in there, they'd have noticed that.
particularly when they took it off and it just fell off, but that's another story. So I siliconed it and put some zip ties on, hoping that would work. I got as far as Durango, and then it was just out of control. So I rented a truck in Durango, because they do have a Harley dealer in Durango, but, you know, 3rd time's the charm bullshit, all right? You stay away from Harley dealers, all right? That's just a rule.
Well, that's what you get from a guy that's been building bikes for decades, and I don't think he likes the Harley dealer very much, but, you know, I get it.
Yeah, and, you know, if I got on my soapbox, I would say Harley's all fucked up. You know, they're making these bikes for lawyers, accountants, and doctors. You know, I was in 2 dealerships, $28,000, $25,000 for a bike. Fuck you. All right, Harley was built on working men having motorcycles. You know, and that's where they got all. You know, that's the guys who ride bikes.
And that's where they went sideways, when they started making them for others.
Yeah, and now they're making them for doctors and lawyers. I wonder why their sales are down, because nobody can get into a big twin for like 10 grand. Forget about it. You can't do it.
I completely understand what you're saying, but just so the little cushion backdrop or whatever, as much as he don't want anybody to know what he does, but he actually runs a $1 billion corporation in the United States. I know he don't want to be known as that, but he's actually really smart. He's been a mentor of mine for 5 years since I've owned my garage.
Even a blind squirrel finds a nut once in a while.
I know, but
I've been on Medi-Cal. I started pumping gas for $2.25 an hour. I just hustled, you know, and I just lucked out.
You've been on Medi-Cal, whatever.
I was. No, I swear to God.
I know, but you've always the business that you have, or you?
No, I personally was on Medi-Cal at one point.
With your business?
No, when I was I was young. I'm making $2.25 an hour. I don't have insurance.
Oh, I thought the gas was $2.25 an hour.
No,
not that you're making. My God, that was what, 1950?
Yeah.
That was
before they had automobiles.
That was a long time ago. I mean, seriously, I thought you're pumping gas for $2.25 an hour.
I was.
No, but you made it sound like the gas was $2.25 a gallon, and you're on Medi-Cal.
When I started riding motorcycles, gas was 17 cents.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. You've been around a long time.
I'm an old guy.
I was a little misunderstanding, but yeah, I mean, my whole point is that you are speaking the truth. You're coming from an area as a businessman to say that, you know what, there's a lot of issues, and they do have a lot of issues. Like right now, they're voiding people's warranties. I don't know if you know this out there. Feel free to look into it. It's a 50-state thing. Harley Davidson is voiding your warranty if you put other than their tuner on the bike, like a Screaming Eagle tuner. If you put anybody else's tuner on there, it leaves a thumbprint in the ECM, and you have a malfunction, like with the Milwaukee H. Those things are popping like popcorn, and you go to the dealer with a blown motor, you put I won't mention the name, such and such tuner in it, boom, voided your warranty instantly. They don't even fix it. It's a $10,000 fix.
Well, but I avoided warranties from the get-go.
Well, yeah, you
as soon as, you know, I only had one brand new Harley in my life. It was a 1997 Road King.
Well, I know you.
And I avoided the warranty
instantly because you
in
mess
less
with
than 10
everything.
miles.
Well, that's because you mess with everything. And
Well, you know.
the one bike you had that you unfortunately went down, you were showing off your 124 inch.
131.
It's a. Oh, I'm sorry, it was short a couple inches. But
That's a big deal sometimes.
it is.
You know, I've heard. I've heard
what?
women say you're short a couple inches.
I've never heard that, but I've heard.
I heard them say it about you, actually.
You know what? You may a little bit. You know, but I make it up for in other departments. But you know what? We would be here all
That's why
day.
it's got that chin here.
Yeah, it's a butt tickler. We'd be here all day, honestly. And Jim's been a mentor of mine for 5 years. I've owned my garage 5 years. He's a wealth of information and wanted to have him in and thank you for your time. But you know what?
You're welcome.
Check it out on
Not
YouTube.
bad by $309.
Yeah, I know. You're always it's the chidest fucking guy on the planet. I swear to God, he squeaks. But anyways, see
Because
the whole.
I grew up poor.
There's no excuse.
You know? Hey, there is.
See the whole thing on YouTube.
Bye.
If I don't do this, I'll never get to work. See ya.
Pleasure. Peace out.